Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first session on our Career Expo. Today's session is focused on agriculture, and we have two wonderful panelists with us today. We have John Ice, who is with Ice Implement. It is a John Deere dealer. I grew up in the city, but I remember spending summers up on the farm, and my uncles, they had quite a few of the John Deere materials. Some of them were the old Alice Chalmers from the 1920s because, again, it's a family business always, and farming is forever. Our other panelist today with us is Dave Wilfert. He is with Wilfert Farms. They are a vegetable producer, and we're going to have an interesting session with what they share with you today. If anyone does have questions throughout our next 30 minutes, please put your questions in the chat box, and I'll ask those questions throughout the session of our panelists. Are we ready to go? All right, great. Dave, if you want to start us out here this morning, please do.
Well, certainly. I'll introduce myself. My name is Dave Wilfert, and I'm with Wilfert Farms over near a little town called Shoto, Wisconsin. And we're mainly known in this area for our vegetable production. Normally our peas in the pod, our sweet corn, and all our other fresh market produce. Along with that, however, that's 1/3 of our company or our farm. The other two parts are processing vegetables, where we raise like green beans, carrots for Lakeside Foods in Manitowoc. We've been in that end of farming for probably forever because my family has always worked with Lakeside, and I can trace some of our roots with Lakeside Foods back about 90 years. Our own roots in Manitowoc County go back close to 150 years that my family's been farming here in Manitowoc County. So sometimes people ask me, why did I get here, or why am I doing what I do? And originally, I'm a lot like other kids in school. My parents told me, go find something better to do, go find a good job where you can be successful, make a lot of money, and not have to work super hard. But like many kids, I didn't listen totally to my parents, and I ended up back here farming. And I've never regretted it since the day I moved back here in 1978. I've been able to do some very unique things on the farm that I end up run, and it's been fun. Now, to think, we always look at education, and I'm a big advocate for education. I look at myself. I was a top kid in my high school class when I graduated. Always had a fun time in college and whatever else. I've got a couple college degrees, one in marketing, one in economics. And people say, you're a farmer? Why did you ever go to college? And I went to college. I never regret it. I use those college education and ideas from college every day of my life. So very well worth it. In my job, I want to tell you a little bit about it first, because people will say, what do you do? What do you do at Wilfert Farms? Well, we're production agriculture. So we're producing the raw product that's going to be turned into the milk, into the vegetables, into the cereals you ate for breakfast this morning. We produce the raw product that goes to the processor and is going to get turned into the food that ends up in our grocery store. So I do a wide variety of things here. I work with a lot of people. I work with not only people that are on my farm that I employ, which at times of the year ends up in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 people, but I also deal with people who are my suppliers, people that I'm buying from that are involved with different companies around the world, but that produce the inputs that I need to use to make the products grow on my farm. So a lot of what I do at this time of the year is I'm planning on schedules of what we're going to plant, how we're going to do it, at what dates it's going to happen, who we're going to sell it to. And so it'll be some contractual work I'm doing and also a lot of other planning. So my job is a very varied job. Every day is different. There's never 2 days in the year that are alike. And if you're a person like me and don't like doing the same thing every day, the job that I have would be just what you want, because every day is a new day with new challenges, new opportunities, and working with a lot of fun people. Now, as you can see, I'm an old guy already, so it ends up, I'm not a big lover of a lot of old people. I don't like particularly working with a lot of old people, because many times I think they're kind of can be a pain in the butt. I like working with young people, and I've enjoyed that because I get to do that every day on the farm that I run. We employ quite a group of college and high school kids here, along with the other people that work here, and we always have a good time. And when you go, I'm a big believer in a guy by the name of Benjamin Franklin, who you might have studied in history along the way. Benjamin Franklin said, if you don't like what you're doing, you shouldn't do it. And I'm a firm believer in that. So when you're out looking for something to do, try to find something to do in life that'll be fun, interesting, that you can still make some money at, enjoy a good lifestyle, but make it always be fun every day. That's the most important thing in going through life is being in a fun operation and being in a fun environment. So with that, I'm gonna maybe pass it back on to John a little bit. And John and I work together a lot. He's my next door neighbor, actually. He runs Ice Implement, and we end up running quite a bit of John Deere equipment. And John's the guy I come to help end up facilitate that.
Hey, everybody. I'll talk a little bit about our business. I really wanted to start and just get a feel for all of you and what career you're looking into. And I just wanted to go through a couple of things that might surprise you about agriculture. Just wondering if any of you actually knew that the vaccines, including the vaccines for COVID-19, are actually developed by individuals who are in an agricultural career. A biochemist is the one that will do that. They'll create the vaccines, and it's actually one of the top jobs in agriculture today.
Wow.
And it was nice to start off with Dave because, to many of you, what is the first thing that you think of when someone says agriculture? Quite often, it's probably farm, maybe being a farmer or maybe the food that you're eating, right? The crops that are growing. Or around here, it'd be our dairy cows. What I'd really like to stress today is that there's such a wide variety within agriculture that you can go into in any level of education. After you graduate from high school, maybe it's a tech school, maybe it's a 4-year degree in college, maybe it's a doctorate, maybe it's a master's, and just a variety of some of those careers. Could be a food scientist, a plant research biologist, maybe environmental engineer. I know every year we get a lot of people interested in being a veterinarian or a vet tech. What about an investment banker? How does that relate to agriculture? Forestry, or maybe even being a farm equipment salesperson. So one of my big takeaways is just to really try to keep an open mind. Think about how many years of school after high school you really want to commit to, and what kind of financial budget you want to work off, because every extra year of education is going to be a larger investment for each of you. Say a biochemist that's making those vaccines, that could be up to 6 years of education. Whereas like a diesel technician, you can have that completed in about 2 years. So, get curious, explore some different careers, ask some questions to, maybe your parents have a friend, or maybe you have a relative that's involved in one of these careers and you want to learn more about it. Ask them. That's where you're going to get some of your best resources. Maybe just even go into Google or go to YouTube and search some questions in there. What does an animal geneticist do? What's it like being a farm equipment engineer? You might actually be able to find out, what specific classes it takes if you want to be working for the DNR. So just some things to really think about, and hopefully we can help you with some of that too. And please, if there's a career that's related to what Dave and I are doing, feel free to contact your teachers, and they can get information back to us, and we can put you in contact with some of the professionals, right here in Northeast Wisconsin that are doing those jobs. In terms of Ice Implement, we're a John Deere dealer. We're selling those big tractors and combines to Mr. Wilfert. We're also selling, lawnmowers to homeowners. Some of you in class today may have a John Deere lawnmower from us. And even though agriculture can a lot of times be, you know, compared with just being farming, there's pretty much any career that you take in the business world can be related to agriculture. So if you've got a little bit of passion for that outdoors, and you know, there's definitely a spot for you. To give you an idea of that, just within our organization today, we have about 6 youth apprentices or school to work high school students at our business today, and we're probably getting pretty close to having about 8 coming up here in the next semester. So what would all those kids be doing here? We have a youth apprentice program for our diesel technician program, our outdoor power technician program. We just started one for parts and marketing. So again, those are maybe, you know, marketing is a pretty broad career. But again, if you have an interest geared towards agriculture, you can, in like marketing, we can find a spot for you within Wisconsin, within the US. I guess that's kind of where I'm at right now. Dave, I don't know if you have anything else. I can build on some of that, but.
Well, John, you know the thing, we're big advocates for agriculture here in Manitowoc County. And I always like to talk about agriculture as an industry. And doing what we're doing today with the chamber, we're looking at a lot of different industries in Manitowoc County per se, of where people may end up, see their trails lead to as far as what they're going to do in life. And the one thing I like everybody to realize and remember is, if we look at all the industries in the world, if we look at healthcare and we look at manufacturing, we look at agriculture, there's only one industry we have in America that we do better than anyone else in the world, and that's agriculture. In America, we do agriculture better than anyone else in the world. We raise more feed stuff, we process more feed stuff, and we do it better and more efficiently than anyone in the world. So why would you not want to be part of that team? I always, when I talk to people, and I'm a kind of a big team guy, and my question always is, do you want to be on a winning team or a losing team? I've always liked being on a winning team. I'll have to admit, one of the things in life I'm not very good at, I'm not a very good loser. So fortunately, being in agriculture, I haven't had a problem with that, because I get to win a lot of times. And to me, that makes it fun. Nothing more fun than we're loading semi-load after semi-load of carrots going out to Lakeside Foods in fall, and realizing that these cans of food, these cans of carrots are going to get turned into, and bags of carrots are going to get turned into food stuff that people, not only in the United States, are going to be eating, but people all over the world are going to be eating. So it makes it fun. A lot of times in agriculture, people that haven't been involved with it do not realize how much of a good feel industry it is, because when you're doing the things we do in agriculture, it's a lot of it is going to be very constructive in helping other people have good and prosperous lives. So it makes it fun to know you're part of that. I want to go along with what John was talking about, some of the occupations, and I'm going to throw my reading glasses on here, and I'm going to just buzz through a couple of the things that we end up do here and need in Manitowoc County. And between dairy farms, we look at having veterinarians, and we look at equipment technicians. We look at milkers and feeders and people who do the field operations of harvesting the crops that are going to go in the big bunker silos to feed all those cows to create the milk. We need truck drivers. And some people sometimes think truck driving isn't a very great thing anymore. I drove semi at one time in my life on the side as a side job, and had a lot of fun. Actually, I delivered another product, feeder pigs, all over the United States in winter. And it was neat. It was an education in itself for me, just the different people I met on where I delivered all these feeder pigs to. We look in the grain operations that we run, and going into the grain terminals, like over at Valders, where we see all the grain bins with the CP feeds and quality roasting and country visions. There's jobs in those places, being the people that are the the agronomists, the crop scouts, running the grain elevators. And there's a whole slew of jobs over there that are really decent paying jobs that a lot of people would be able to fill. When I look at other jobs created to what we do, I look at people that end up sell product to me. We deal with people that are commodity brokers who are actually trading on the stock exchanges as far as setting the prices for grain. So I have friends and people that end up do that. I have a good friend of mine who is a national seed salesman for the seed company that we buy from. Much of our vegetable seed is grown in other parts of the world, including Europe and South America. So every year when I sit down with my seed man, he ends up tells me, we've got jobs that are paying over $100,000 a year. We can't get people to fill them, being the seed people doing what I'm doing. And his job includes not only travel in the United States, but it includes international travel into South America and these other areas in Europe where the seed is being produced. So a lot of interesting jobs out there in agriculture. Another thing is, I don't think you're going to find a nicer group of people to work with than you are in agriculture. My experience in the 50 some or 60 years that I've been involved in agriculture, just find people that are willing to end up work together to get the job done. We're a little different, I think, than a lot of other industries because we've always grown up being people that work together. We have to work together with other people in the industry in order to succeed. Because in agriculture, much of it doesn't run by the hour, the minute, or the week. It runs by the year. And I look at, as I put things together and for the year, when I'm looking at my planning schedules and whatever else, it's all on a year basis. And so it's a little different than everything else that we've used to doing, where we get on a computer, we can do it real quick and be done and move on to the next thing. Agriculture is a continuum. One of my most fun things is when I look at friends of mine like John Ice sitting over here, who I've worked with for quite a number of years, and I've worked with his dad before, and other members of his family. We have a very neat, close-knit group of people that work together. And if they have a problem, they don't hesitate to call on me. When I have problems, I don't hesitate to call on them, no matter what time of the day or night it is. And that type of fraternal grouping, you don't find very often in the world as far as in the workforce anymore today. So I also have that same type of feeling and arrangement with a lot of the people that work for me. I've got employees here that have worked for well over 20 years for me and will be here again next year to work for me. And we all work together to do something. And it's a very good feeling industry. So you want to sometimes keep that in mind, because I think today, in today's world of jobs and whatever, a lot of the jobs, there's not a lot of job security anymore. And there's not that togetherness or closeness that you have in agriculture. Now, people sometimes would look at me and say, well, you really talk highly of agriculture. And I'm going to say and tell you this. When I look at a group of students out here, I'm going to tell you I practice what I preach. In my family, I have people that are in the food nutrition business, that are food scientists for major companies like Nestle and Kellogg's. I've got a nephew that ends up sells equipment like John Ice sells John Deere equipment and does very well at it. I've got a daughter who's an agricultural attorney who ends up is involved with agriculture and is continually advocating for agriculture along with her legal business. My son, and I've only got two kids, I've got a daughter and a son, but my son is the person that's coming in to run our business. And he's 28 years old. He's been working with me for the last, I guess, 16 years. John knows him very well. And but it's fun to see your own family do very well in agriculture. And for that reason, I'm never afraid to stand up and say, look into ag. It's a great industry. The jobs are going to stay here in America because we're going to create the food stuff that everyone needs to eat right here. And it's what makes our country very successful. So John, got any comments to add on that?
Great job, Dave. I just say it's really difficult. We're used to an interactive session where we can really get the class going. So doing it online, just one thing right now, anybody have any questions about what we talked about? or resources we can help you with.
There have not been any questions typed into the chat at this time.
It's Monday morning.
It is Monday morning. So I know Dave specifically said he was born into this role. And John, I'm curious how you got involved in such a different aspect of agriculture yourself.
Similar situation, family owned business. However, one thing you have to figure out is, where do you want to go? There's many times where, I questioned whether it was something I wanted to do or not, but it was always there that I did, just working, being around the different experiences and people you work with. It's not in a cubicle. You're out, you're interacting with a lot of different individuals. So I just naturally, I knew since I was young on that that's what I wanted to do. So
Okay.
we're probably not the best examples for people not in that situation.
Sure, sure.
Probably one of the things
John,
for me was just when I did go to college, I was shocked by the variety of opportunities. I didn't grasp that when I was in high school, that there are so many different career paths. So if you are, just you're not sure what you want to do, that's okay. And to get an idea of that, try something in Youth Apprentice. Try to go work by Wilfort's in the summer. Talk with some other businesses, even if they're not part of agriculture, and just see if you can shadow or experience it just to get a taste, because that might help you get a direction. And if not, you go to college, you don't know what you want to do, that's okay. There's a lot of my friends, they changed majors when they were sophomores in college and ended up doing something totally different than they thought they were. So we always talk about how difficult change can be. We're always waiting for change. But if you look back at yourself and the older you get, you realize the more times you've actually changed in your life. So it is okay.
Thank you, John. I was reading some information on the USDA.gov website, and in 2020, 19.7 million full-time and part-time jobs were related to the agricultural and food sectors, which is about 10.3% of our total US employment. So it is a very large area to become involved in. I do have one question. We'll see if Dave wants to field it first. This comes from Sarah Greenwood. What do you feel are the advantages and or the disadvantages in the agricultural career field?
well, I think, excuse me, I think the most important advantage or the biggest advantage in agriculture is that we're an industry in America that's here to stay. We need to end up produce the amount of food that we do here to end up keep a very good country doing very good things. And if we look in the world and we look out, I'm a student of history, and if we look into history, many of the wars in the past years and back in time were fought because of food. And countries in Europe that didn't have food supplies or the ability to have food fought to end up acquire land to have a food supply. We sometimes forget this because we live in a country where we know nothing but abundance in food supply. But in this industry and for what we do to keep America running, it's been so very important. If we look back 30 years, we spend about 15% of the disposable income in this country on food. Today, we spend about 9.5%. So the agricultural industry has become so much more efficient that people can eat so much cheaper. And most of them don't realize it, but it's true. And it's what enabled us to take, because we can eat so cheaply, we can do a lot of other things, including recreation and nice houses and everything else. I want to go back one step and maybe just catch on what John said, and we talked about being kind of family coming into this. As students out there, don't be afraid, like John told you, to try an avenue, go down a path you can always end up and branch off to other things. I'm kind of a prime example of that. I ended up, as a youngster, was told by my parents that I couldn't farm because there were better things in life to do. So actually, upon graduating from college with a number of degrees, I actually ran another company for 2 years and serviced the 5-state area for another company out of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, before I moved back home. And the reason that I ended up back home was my dad actually had a brain tumor when I graduated from college. He was a dairy farmer and he could no longer end up farm at that point. So I came back home along with one other brother I had, who also was employed by a Swiss company at the time. And the two of us came back and helped our mother run the farming operation for 2 years before I moved back home and tended to help move it in another direction. So, but all in all, I think agriculture is just a great place to be because job security is super, and it's going to continue to be.
Thank you, Dave. I have another question here, and we're going to be wrapping up very shortly. We only have about 4 minutes remaining in our time. But do you have any, both Dave and John, what is your suggestion for our students listening today on any specific classes that they should take now here in high school or plan to take in college to help them specifically learn more about agriculture or that will help them prepare? John, you're smiling, so I'm going to have you take that first.
This is so much easier to give this answer because I'm not in your shoes anymore. Lessons learned for me, communication. Take as many speech classes, communication classes as you can. It will relate in whatever you're going to do. And I didn't like that. I didn't like standing in front of people talking. Do it right away. Break the ice while you're young so that when you are in a career, you can be professional and confident when you approach everybody. Also, I would say math. Everything revolves around math, and it's only going to become more and more important with coding and technology as we move forward in the world. I was always like a mostly A's, a couple B student, even through college. I got a D in trigonometry, and it's because I was stubborn. My high school teacher in geometry, I was struggling, and I was like, I'm not going to need this. I'm going to be in business. Like, I don't need math for business. And I actually went back to her after a few years in college and apologized to her because she was right. Math is so important.
Thank you, John. And it takes those years of experience to realize that, yes, what your parents tell you, what your teachers tell you, they are right, even though you're strong-headed and you know what to do and they don't know anything. So thank you for that. Dave, what recommendations for classes do you recommend?
I'm going to add a little bit to that, and I'm going to add science to it, because so much of what we do today is science. And really, if I had to put something extra with my job of what I do, I guess I'd call myself a scientist, because we're continually looking into the science end of everything we do. And that's so very important. As a high schooler, what I would also look at and recommend, if you have it available in your school, and I know many of you do, is taking some ag classes. And people have downplayed ag classes over the years, but they're very important. And one of the real importance that they have is they open up the doors to a lot of different contacts and networking with agricultural people who will usually be happy to take you under their wing and take you along for the ride if you're show some interest in it. But the FFA programs and the ag education programs that we have in the local county schools are excellent. When I look at agriculture, also the other important thing is as you go to college, the agricultural industry provides more scholarships and more money to assist you to go and get an agricultural education than any other industry that's out there. Now, I'm going to give you one last example. My daughter, Kelly, who's an attorney, was heavily involved, very good student, heavily involved in agriculture and FFA, was a state officer, was officers in high school. but she went through 4 years of college education plus 3 years of law school, and she never spent a nickel. Because of her networking and background in agriculture, it all became paid for with scholarship. So I also, my son, for the college credits he took, same way, never spent a nickel. And it's because the agricultural industry supported both of my children and basically paid their way through school. So
That-
don't be afraid to reach out and use it. It's there.
That is amazing, the story that you have to share about the financial impact. That is huge as you're pursuing education. I would like to thank both John and Dave for their time this morning, and for you, our students, for listening and hopefully now considering agriculture as a future career option. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you again in one of our other career expos going on this week. Thank you.